from the state levels all over the United States, not just Missouri, but also at the federal level. The people want this done. If you think we're just going to go away and be quiet, think again.
Oh, I love it. Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Beautiful. Technology is
That
a beautiful thing.
guy seems really mad. I don't know.
Well, it's funny. It's funny, Michael. MoCleanSkies.org. So if people want to contribute, if they want to follow along, MoCleanSkies.org.
Yeah.
You're just like many of us. We start to petition the government. We start to recognize that it is very difficult to get the most simple things done. I would imagine when you're going around the state of Missouri or around the country and you say, hey, listen, all these things that you're seeing in the sky, we found out what that is. We now know what's going down with that. We're going to try to put a stop to it. Not one person is going to tell you no, right? Every single person goes, we don't want any poison being in our skies. We don't want that aluminum coming down into our soil. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you try to petition the Missouri government and I would assume you got blocked. It sounds like you were a little irritated. Tell me the story from your point of view.
Well, actually, I'm happy right now, believe it or not.
Oh, good.
And that is because the Senate bill passed unanimously this morning, just about an hour ago.
You know what's interesting? I was going to ask you about that because Senator Nick Schroer, I worked with him at News Talk. All right, so I worked this was something that he was very interested in, and he's a powerful guy up there. And we used to get on text message trails and threads, and they would be showing pictures all over the sky. So I know that Nick wants to get this done, and I know that he has a big voice in the Senate. So that doesn't necessarily surprise me. But so you must have thought that you were going to get hamstrung now in the House. Is that what you're worried about?
Yeah. And by the way, Nick Schroer did co-sponsor the Senate Bill 860, and it did pass unanimously. So, but the House bill, that was a slam dunk. I had all but one representative voting for it. Okay. 100. I mean, I go up there and I do things that you're probably not even supposed to do, but I get up there and I don't take no for an answer. I mean, I'll challenge anybody. This is our house. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm determined. I'm not up here for my own. I don't get paid one dime. Okay. I'm not doing this for my own, it's fact that I had a really good life before all this.
Oh yeah. We all know when you get into this and everything starts to change.
Yeah, so I had one vote against it. That was a Rep Jeff Hales, and I told you I was going to name names. So Jeff Hales was the Democrat that was going to vote no, and he wasn't even in the committee hearing. So I went up to him and said, "Wait, why? What do you mean no? Do you not want to breathe clean air and have a clean environment? Isn't that your platform anyway?" And so he just said it was, it's partisan and we're going to vote party lines. And I said, no. All the other Democrats on the committee are voting yes. So maybe I caught him at a bad time or whatever, but he didn't seem to be very kind that I was challenging him. Very happy about that. So we got to the committee hearing and to just the vote. I mean, we had a great hearing, and then a week later we had the vote. And Rep. John Black decided to come out of the nowhere and just throw a monkey wrench in it and say, just completely stop the hearing, and they had to postpone it, and then now it's completely canceled indefinitely or postponed indefinitely, whatever. But I'm super, super upset about John Black. The way he did that, he should not have gone into that vote without knowledge. This is a 2-page bill, okay? And he came in acting like he didn't hear about the punitive measures. Now, first of all, you don't have punitive measures. We want it to be a felony, just like Florida, okay? We want it to be a felony, and we wanted a $100,000 fine a day for anyone who sprays in our atmosphere, okay? Why would you oppose that in the first place? But he acted like he didn't hear that. Now, if you roll back the tape, he was sitting right there while I said that in the hearing, and he was I guess he wasn't paying attention. And so that was extremely a kick in the gut, when knowing that we had it pretty much in the bag.
And he's a Republican, John Black?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I found out he's not running again because he's a senior. I guess I don't know if there's term limits or whatever, but I said I made a comment that I was gonna campaign against him because I'm pissed. I'm sorry.
So those are the two guys, Jeff Black and Jeff Hales. Those are the two that got in your way.
John Black and Jeff Hales. Yeah, that was the two. But then once John Black spoke up in the vote, he started to bring doubt. You could see reading the room, you saw, oh my gosh, everybody's starting to question this now, even though This is a part of the thing. It was part of the testimony. It's not a surprise. It's in the bill, things like that. And so, but it's not all bad, okay? Because let me just say, Trisha Burns is the chair lady on that committee.
We know Trish.
Yeah, so she came in and she said she was an eye roller coming into that committee hearing. And she walked out of that hearing saying she's in full 100% support. And so I think she read the room too, and she didn't want it to go to a no vote because of what John Black did. And so she tried to help us out, I think. I'm still not happy about it, but she's going to be a big proponent for us going into next session. I know she's running for Senate, so whichever direction she goes, I think she's going to be a real big help for us.
What is in the sky? So let's get back to that, because that's the legislative part. What did you find out as you went through this process of saying, what are they spraying in the skies? What did you find out? Who is doing it? One of the things I'm just going to ask you, because I don't know the answer. I keep thinking that what happens in the Missouri government is always tied to the federal government. I don't know what's being sprayed in the skies, but if it's a federal government program and you get half your budget from the federal government, it would seem to me that you can't do some of the things that would be common sense, because the federal government is now running the show and you can't push back against the federal government. That might be why, if you say there's going to be penalties, you're like, wait a minute, this is a federal government program. That's what I started to think when I heard that this was getting pushed down, because there's just no way that either Democrats or Republicans would say they want these things to be sprayed into our skies. It just made me think this might be a federal government program. Did you find out where these things originate and what's in the air?
Definitely. Well, at the state level, here's what we're banning. Okay, I'm going to make a clarification here. We're banning stratospheric aerosol injections and any type of geoengineering, which is basically these climate change cabal. Basically, this is their idea of mitigating climate change by spraying sulfuric acid and aluminum and other types of things into our stratosphere to block out sun rays. Okay, it sounds crazy, but that's what
dimming
they're
the skies.
doing.
Dimming the skies, right? Dimming the skies. Can I tell you a story very quickly? I'll just tell you a real quick story just to show you how true that is, because I have firsthand experience. My father and I and my son went over to watch the British Open, right? So the British Open over in the UK, and I have pictures of it. And I noticed as soon, because it was kind of rainy and cloudy when we first got there, but the first day of golf, we come outside and we're outside, and I'm looking up at the sky, and I kept thinking, man, these are blue skies. This looks so different than it does in the US. You can get the big rolling clouds, and the skies were just bright blue. And I didn't think much more of it until this conversation started. Thinking, I'm like, why would the skies be bluer and prettier and more majestic in the UK than they are in the United States? And then this whole conversation about dimming the skies came into effect. I'm like, that might have something to do with it, because you can see a difference in the color of the skies. Even on a bright blue sunshiny day, it does not feel it's a different color in the UK. I noticed it right away looking up at the skies.
Well, I'm going to make some clarification here because what I just mentioned, stratospheric aerosol injection, that's in the stratosphere, which is miles and miles and miles ahead of above us. You can't see those planes. You're not going to see those trails. Okay. What you're seeing is trails like what we call chemtrails, right? And that's the issue that got me involved in this in the first place, because I'm sick of seeing this stuff. And yes, they are completely covering our sky. But when I really started finding out the truth about this, I found out that when I got my own flight tracker and I started tracking who exactly is this. Okay, I want to know, and I can find that you can actually anybody can download a flight tracker app on their phone and say, who exactly is this that looks like they're spraying above me at this very moment? And it'll tell you the name of the airline. It'll tell you the altitude. It'll tell you where they left, where they're going, the tail number, things like that. And by and large, the majority of these things are going to be commercial airplanes. They're going to be United. It's going to be Delta, Frontier, on and on and on. And so I thought, whoa. Are they spraying with pumps and pipes to spray the stratosphere? That seems preposterous, and it is. The thing is, this is an issue that the EPA knows about, and they're using this thing to cover our skies for climate change mitigation too. So don't get me wrong, but this stuff is coming out of their emissions, out of their fuels that are laced with these things, in particular sulfur dioxide, which turns into sulfuric acid, which is what the globalists want to spray in the stratosphere. Okay, so this stuff, when these planes fly through ice supersaturated regions in the sky, and that's basically a pockets of humidity, which happens a lot. Okay, they go through these really cold and wet territories in the sky, the pollutants that are coming, that are like pouring out of their emissions, major levels of sulfur dioxide, metals, and things like that, turn into the ice creating nuclei that creates clouds and persists and spreads throughout the sky. That's the scientific exact information about what's happening there. And but if you go to the EPA and you go to the FAA, they actually have climate change departments as well, and they've been using that for to cover our skies for geoengineering as well. So, but we just have to understand exactly what we're dealing with. So that's a federal government issue, and so here's what's happening. At the state level, we're stopping stratospheric aerosol injection. We're saying we do not want you to intentionally spray this stuff in our stratosphere. And there are private companies that are doing this too, not just government. And also, we don't want weather modification. We don't want cloud seeding companies to come in and try to create rain by spraying toxic silver iodide into the clouds. Okay. So that's what we're stopping at the state level. But if you go to Florida, you're in Florida, right, Rob? You guys have already you've already banned geoengineering weather modification there in Florida, but yet the trails are still there every single day. It's because the planes that they're spraying, that look like they're spraying, are commercial aircraft by and large, and it's coming out of the emissions. So that the law has nothing to do with that. So what we have to do is go to the EPA and the FAA and demand that they already know this is happening. They're happy that the public thinks that what they're seeing is nefarious undercover pilots that are literally spraying them out of their nozzles like stratospheric aerosol injections, but it's not. So we're going to say, hey, EPA, Lee Zeldin, you know this is happening. You have the Clean Air Act gave permission to the aviation industry to pollute our skies with toxins because this Clean Air Act focused just on carbon and did not address anything other than carbon, right? Because that's the whole climate change thing, narrative.
Right.
So that's changing with Lee Zeldin. So what we're doing is we're gonna go after. We're gonna come out with a major push. Me and a lot of other groups across the country, and we're going to demand that they clean this up. And there's ways for aircraft to avoid ice supersaturated regions, to not create a cloud. Okay, that's technology is happening. American Airlines is already has that in motion. They have partnered with Google AI where they avoid ice supersaturated regions, and they have reduced the number of contrails or chemtrails by a substantial amount. And so one thing I noticed is that I almost never see an American airline doing that. So because they've already implemented that procedure. But again, lastly, the most important thing is we have to make sure that these airlines are not spraying poisons onto our planet, okay? Regardless of whether they look like, whether we see them or not.
What are the private companies that are doing it? You said the private companies do it as well. Why would they do it? Are these people that are part of the agricultural community where they want rain on farms?
So again, we got two different things. Stratospheric aerosol injections, that's the globalists that want to lower the temperature to mitigate climate change. There's actually companies like Make Sunsets that are doing that now. They use balloons actually. And then there's another company called Stardust Solutions that's actually started this month spraying our stratosphere. They have a fleet of planes. That's an Israeli American company. They have a fleet of planes that are designed to spray sulfuric acid and aluminum and things like that into our stratosphere. You can look it up, StardustSolutions.com. Okay, they don't give a lot of details there, but you can look up other sources to find out how just different reports on this saying how reckless this is and how we have to stop these companies from doing this. So this is a for-profit company. Lee Zeldin came out recently and said geoengineering is real and it's been funded by the government.
That's right. He confirmed it.
Yep, there you go. And so on the cloud seeding part, that's the companies that like Rainmaker who come out, and they've actually called all of our legislators, by the way, and they'll be fighting us harder next year, I'm sure. But they're the ones that spray silver iodide in clouds to make them rain. And that's silver iodide is poisonous. If you look on the on the bag, it says do not release into the environment, toxic to all aquatic life. And so they say, oh, it's just a little bit. Well, I don't want you to spray cotton candy just a little bit over my head without my permission.
Right.
So I don't want anything sprayed in our stratosphere.
I want them clean. I want clean skies so our people are healthy.
Oh, I lost you again. You can't hear you again.
I lose you? Isaiah?
All right, I'm going to have to back out and come back in.
Okay. Wonder what's happening there, Isaiah. Any sense of that?
No,
very odd, isn't it? Probably on his system.
On our end.
Yeah, I would assume it's on his system somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is Lee Zeldin. He did I think he did something on Fox News recently where he came out and said that all the because remember all these were, you can bring him back on. All these were conspiracy theories. Can you hear me, Michael?
Yeah, I don't know why that's happening, but
I don't either. I was saying to Isaiah,
glitches.
yeah, it is what it is. But we were talking about it earlier. All of these things, even like this cloud seeding, the dimming of the skies, the climate change, chemicals being thrown into the atmosphere, this was all considered to be conspiracy theory not too long ago. And I just wonder, this is just another one because we keep talking about all these things that everybody thought was crazy. When you brought it up, you said, what's in the skies?
Yeah.
Everybody goes, oh, relax, it's just condensation. I have a buddy of mine who's a pilot. He said, Rob, it's just condensation. I said, well, condensation would go away, wouldn't it? I'm watching these things. They're here for like 2 hours. They just roll out and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's not condensation. And all these things are coming to fruition, which makes me wonder who is governing our society anymore? What is going on? I mean, this is not what people, if it's a government of, by, and for the people, this is not what we want. This is what big corporations want. These are people with political interests. This is what they want. And they seem to win all the time. Doesn't it feel like that way to you when you're fighting this issue? This should be a no-brainer. Nobody wants these things in the sky.
Yeah.
We lived without them for centuries. So this is not something that we have to have. But yet when you fight your government, it doesn't seem like you win very often.
And this is a major, major problem. If we don't get ahead of this, if we don't make a stop, you could stop all air traffic right now, and it would take 2 years for all the pollutants to clear out of our atmosphere. Imagine that. So every day there's 100,000 flights per day going across our country and all over the world. And imagine the amount of pollutants that are coming out. That are creating this. And then on top of that, they want to add more pollution. You can look up Dr. David Keith, who went on the Stephen Colbert show saying, yeah, we want to add more. And he said, this will result in tens of thousands of deaths. But we hope that it'll save more than what we kill. I have a link on my, you got the argument. You think I'm joking? Go to our YouTube page or our Facebook page, and you can see a video of him saying those exact things.
That he thinks it'll save more people than it'll kill with the poison. Yeah,
because he thinks, well, if we don't lower the temperature, we're all dead, right? These people are psychos. That person. There's a bunch of Bill Gates is part of this whole equation. He's funding it. He has Ken Caldera, who works directly for him. He's his mad scientist, basically. So you can't look up geoengineering without seeing Ken Caldera's name pull up. But all over the world, these are guys that go to the World Economic Forum and they yup it up and they talk about all these things that they're doing, and they talk about how it's a capital venture for them. It's all about money and control.
Right. You create the scenario. You have a hot summer. You start creating this narrative that the world is melting, and then all of a sudden you petition the government and you make $1 bazillion off all these different things that don't make any sense, but it's creating a problem to solve a problem with more money, right?
Yeah.
And if you get into the taxpayers' pockets, whether it's state or federal government, as I always say, if you want to get rich, figure out a way to do business with the government. That's really what it boils down to. If you do business with the government, you're going to make some money.
I'm thinking about opening up my own quality layering program here in Missouri because I didn't know that you could make so much money by doing absolutely nothing.
Right. How'd you get into this?
Did you want to open a daycare together?
Oh, gosh, man. I was standing on the back porch right on the other side of this wall, looking up at the sky like you, right? Going, what in the heck? In the morning, it's gorgeous. I love the sun, especially in the summer. I'm a lake person. We have the lake view right here.
Got a nice day going on.
And I'm like, it's a beautiful day. And then at noon, it was like completely covered in, just like some people say, dreary Missouri. I think now I understand why they call it that, because this kind of crap happens. And it's just so disappointing, to see this. And so that's what got me into it. And then I started realizing, really studying the truth about it. I don't want to spread misinformation. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, because I mean, I guess I kind of am. It depends on who you ask, but I really am factual. I want to
Right.
bring the facts.
Yeah, when you're,
So
I think you're kind of like me. And when you get into these things, you don't want to be the lunatic with the tinfoil hat. So you want to make sure that whatever you're talking about, there's
yeah,
either a disclaimer or you've done your homework and you've
yeah,
verified that this is happening. That's the way it was with me and COVID. Michael,
yeah.
I'll just tell you a quick story. When I started with COVID, and I was happened to be in China when the whole thing broke out, and I started watching the propaganda over there before it got here.
Oh
It was
boy.
American propaganda in Hong Kong, and but it was before anybody heard of COVID, and they were showing people walking down the streets in China and falling down. I'm like, well, I was just in the streets for 2 weeks. I've been all over China. Nobody even knows that COVID exists. So I get back
Yeah,
home and I start telling my friends and family this. It started to happen, and even the people that you warned that it was coming, that the mask and the mandatory vaccinations and the closing down of society, when you're telling people, hey, this is what they're planning on doing, because there's some writings about this from 10 years ago. It was Rockefeller had something called the lockstep that they released in 2000. I think it was 10. And
mhm,
I'm like, they've already talked about what they're getting ready to do here. I think this is getting ready to happen. When it started to happen, people would explain to me why it needed to happen. That they were making excuses for things that
yeah,
that I had said was going to be a con, that they were going to roll this out, and then people started making excuses for it.
yeah,
When we can, that at least makes a little sense, because the overwhelming amount of propaganda that was coming out of the corporate press. Here,
yeah.
you don't have anybody that's against it. Nobody is against what you're fighting for. Every single citizen wants our skies to be clean. There's nobody that goes, no, we love all that stuff, and this is fantastic. Keep pouring it down on top of us.
Yeah,
Nobody wants it, and still you're
but
having a fight with our
well,
government.
the issue is they think it's all conspiracy theory, because when they hear the word chemtrail, then the argument's already over, right?
Right.
Because especially Democrats, they hear that like no, and Republicans too. Actually, they like, no, you're nuts. In fact, the Speaker of the House, when we really pushed him to get this thing in motion, and he would smile and go, this is going to be fun. He kept saying that. And we're like, what do you mean by that? But let's just get it going. Let's do it. And I think there's just all of this, like, it's fake. It's just conspiracy theory. You're making it up. But when I bring in like Trisha Burns, when I come in and I tell the truth and I actually talk about, hey, we're not talking about chemtrails here at the state. You can't stop chemtrails here at the state level. Okay. Those are coming out of commercial aviation. And let me just tell you, I take a bunch of heat from people by saying this, because the conspiracy theorists that wear the hats and they think that the world's flat.
We got
They're
that
the
guy
ones
coming
that,
on May 13th, by the way. Just
they come after me so
Flat Earth
hard.
Dave is coming on May 13th. Flat Earth Dave. People want this guy to come on the show and hear what he has to say. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, I have to block people constantly on social media, because I just don't put up with it. They
Yeah,
start calling me names and all
of
kinds of stuff.
course.
It's like, block, I block about 10 or about a dozen people a week.
Yeah.
And, but then I gain a whole bunch more. We have, millions of people that follow what we're doing. And so, well, we have millions of views, and we have 160,000 followers right now. And
Good for
that's
you.
just in 1 year, so,
I was going to
uh,
ask you. We're going to do some fundraisers. We're on the same page with what you're trying to do. We're trying to have a bottoms up, grounds up conversation with our government about things that are no brainers. There are certain things that people argue about all the time, but there are certain things like video in the Senate, the process of picking the leader,
yeah,
single subject bills, or
yeah,
clean skies, these kinds of things.
yeah,
There's certain things that everybody wants. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. And I would love to have you come to one of our organizational meetings and tell
yeah,
people firsthand what you've learned, so that they
yeah,
understand it, because I have more. It's something that I didn't understand, Mr. Hogan.
yeah,
The chemtrails in the sky and the geoengineering. I was
yeah,
probably like everybody else going, but come on, they're not pouring poison on us. As I
yeah,
started to understand government, I'm like, oh, they might be pouring poison on us. But I would
yeah.
love for you to come to one of our events. Are you in the St. Louis, St. Charles area? Where are you from?
No, I'm actually down in Branson area.
Oh, even better.
Yeah,
I would love to have you in for one of our events. I think you're making a name for yourself. I'm starting to see
yeah,
your name pop up. People in my circles are recognizing who you are. I'd love to do a fundraiser where we kind of join hands together. I think
yeah,
if we can get enough awareness of the things that are going on, the better chance we're going to have of getting things accomplished. So
yeah.
I'll invite you informally here, but I'll get in touch with you, and maybe we'll put a
Oh,
program together.
I accept that invitation wholeheartedly. Absolutely.
Excellent.
I,
All right.
I got a
Mike,
question
go ahead.
for you, Mike. What do you
That's
think
it.
about?
Now, go to mocleanskies.org, and
Oh, I
find
don't
out
think
how
I
you
any.
can support this or you can help us. I mean, this is a group effort. I tell you what, whenever we ask the folks to make calls to these legislators, they do it. I mean, there's a lot of people that do it. You know, a lot of them, yourself as well. We have
Yep.
a lot of common people that we know.
Yes.
And man, like the people you had on earlier, I've had lunch
Yeah.
with them many times and been up. Every time I go up there, I run into them. So,
See, I love it. I love the people
yeah,
that go in and they put they get some skin in the game, right?
yeah,
They're down there, they're pushing, they're fighting. And even though it feels like you can't get things done in Missouri politics, you sure can learn a lot. You can learn a lot by what's
yeah,
going on there. You can share that information. I continue to say, and I don't know if you've heard me say this before, I really believe it's just the pressure. They get pressure from the lobbyists, they
yeah,
get pressure from leadership. If the
yeah,
people outweigh the pressure they're getting from those two organizations,
yeah,
the big lobby money and
yeah,
the leadership within the parties, if the people overwhelm them with pressure, then all of a
yeah,
sudden you're going to see them change their opinion. But until then, I don't think it's going to
yeah,
change. I think that's the system, and they'll recite the system to you all day long. So you have to push that system in a direction that
yeah.
satisfies voters, citizens, we the people, that kind of thing.
One
So
of our bill sponsor in the House, one of them said, "Hey, you know what? Don't hold your head down, man. We look how far we got. We got all the way to committee." I'm like, that ain't enough. I'm like, no, 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 no. We had this in the bag, and we're going for the win. I'm not satisfied with that, so I'm not going to ring my bell and say, hey, that's a victory. That's good. I mean, we're gonna. I tell you what, the people are behind this,
oh yeah.
and they are getting the pressure. They're putting the pressure on these politicians. And I think if we just have the conversation like we did in that committee hearing, where they hear the truth from me, and they go, "Okay, oh wow, that you mean that makes a lot of sense," they're gonna understand what we need to do in Missouri and what we can't do in Missouri, and what we have to do go to the federal government to do. So,
Amen. All right. Well, I'll be in touch with you. I think you're
okay,
doing a great job, man. I really appreciate you popped on the scene. What, maybe in my world, maybe 6 months ago, and you've made
yeah,
a lot of progress very quickly. So I give you
yeah,
a lot of credit for putting the hard work in. Michael Hogan,
thank you.
Missouri, mocleanskies.org, mocleanskies.org. Give them a donation, follow their website, follow them on Facebook, and we'll stay in touch with you. I'll be in touch soon. Have
Awesome,
a
thank
great,
you so much.
you got it, my man. Have a great day. All right. Well, there's a lot of
But
Missouri politics today. Did we
yeah,
learn
that
anything,
stinks.
Isaiah?
He couldn't hear us. He could only hear one of us. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I
He
wonder.
could only hear me, or he could only hear you. He couldn't hear us both. That's the only time that's ever happened. So I wonder what kind of technology is going on. He was on his phone, so that might be an issue too.
Yeah, it might be something.
Yeah.
I always feel like
Well, what I was going to bring up is that, did you see the Sean Ryan episode on cloud seeding, talking with the CEO of a company
yes.
called Rainmaker?
Yes.
And because
he's talking about down in Texas, right? That was down in Texas.
Yeah. He talked about the floods in Texas.
I see everything, Isaiah.
Yeah, of course. I figured.
I see.
But that's what I wanted to ask. That's what I wanted to ask Michael about. I wish he could have heard me, but maybe he can watch it. Maybe he's watching now and he can hear me.
Do you have his info? Send him a text. He'll probably
Yeah,
answer right
absolutely.
away.